Welcome. My name is Shannon Bryant, Traffic Safety Resource Prosecutor for the state of Nevada, and this is part of the TSRP training video series intended for Nevada law enforcement conducting DUI traffic stops. These short training videos are intended to refresh training for in-service officers who have already completed their Category 1 training. This brief training concerns drug DUIs and field sobriety tests, and is designed to help law enforcement officers understand and have confidence that the standardized field sobriety tests taught to them in their academy-level training are valid to detect drug impairment and how to quickly respond to any challenges they may encounter in court. And with that said, let's get going. First, a reminder. You learned that the most important NHTSA field validation study was the 1998 San Diego study. You learned that a certain number of clues for each standardized field sobriety test was a reliable indicator of a BAC level of 0.08 or more. For the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, it was 4 out of 6 clues that were validated at an 88% reliability that the subject had a BAC of 0.08 or more. For the walk and turn, it was 2 out of 8. For the one-leg stand, it was 2 out of 4. In each test, if you saw those clues, you were trained that it was unsatisfactory or some other grading type of assessment. But remember, pass or fail or satisfactory or unsatisfactory for each of these tests is only for alcohol. When we're talking about drug impairment, those numbers have no meaning. It would be like using a test answer key to grade a test using test form A where the questions were taken from test form B. That would make no sense at all. Just the same, we cannot use those numbers, 4 out of 6, 2 out of 8, etc., to say that a person performed satisfactorily or unsatisfactorily where drug impairment is suspected. Does that mean that the standardized field sobriety tests are not valid to detect drug impairment? No, absolutely not. It just means that when you are writing your report after you've completed your arrest and you're writing your report in a suspected drug impairment DUI, you cannot rate a suspect's SFST performance based solely on clues validated for alcohol impairment. I'll say that again. After you've made your arrest, this merely means that when you suspect drugs are the cause of impairment, don't use the validated clues for alcohol to assess whether the performance was satisfactory or unsatisfactory. There is no set number of clues for drug impairment. In a drugs DUI case, everything is relevant, and anything observed can be used to show impairment. So using standardized field sobriety tests to detect drug impairment is not only okay, it is actually what you're being taught to do. The NHTSA manual actually gives you plenty of statements to back this up. Take, for instance, the information from Session 1 that tells you that the psychophysical tests being taught are methods of assessing alcohol or drug impairment. Or in Session 7, where it emphasizes that the divided attention tests that you're being taught may be difficult to perform for a person impaired by alcohol or drugs. There are many other references to drug impairment in the NHTSA manual and how the standardized field sobriety tests are valid to detect impairment from alcohol and or drugs. When you know you have a DUI trial or a suppression hearing coming up, you, as the law enforcement officer, should take a few minutes to look at the NHTSA manual for what your training materials contain. Download that PDF document from the NHTSA.gov website and take a look at it. You'll probably only have to do this once or twice before you won't need to do it anymore because you'll remember it. Use that word search function in the PDF reader to look for drugs, for example, to find relevant information. Remember, the defense attorney is looking at the NHTSA manual too, and that defense attorney is going to be asking you on cross-examination about what you were trained. The manual for the Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving course also makes clear that the Standardized Field Sobriety Tests are the cornerstone for impaired driving and enforcement, and that they should be part of all alcohol and drug impaired driving enforcement initiatives. Indeed, the entire first day of the A-Ride course, a course specifically designed to help law enforcement officers detect impairment from substances other than alcohol, is a review of the Standardized Field Sobriety Tests. This is proof that the Standardized Field Sobriety Tests are used to detect impairment from anything, not just from alcohol. Finally, take a look at the drug recognition evaluation. The Standardized Field Sobriety Tests, highlighted here on the DRE face sheet, are an integral part of the drug recognition evaluation and are necessary to the 12-step standardized DRE evaluation. The DRE methodology is grounded in scientific studies, including the well-known Johns Hopkins study that is recognized internationally as a valid investigative tool to detect impairment by drugs. This is more proof that the Standardized Field Sobriety Tests are valid to detect impairment by drugs as well as alcohol. Before we conclude, some key takeaways. The Standardized Field Sobriety Tests and your A-Ride or Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Enforcement Field Sobriety Tests are very useful tools in your impaired driving investigations, no matter what the cause for impairment. Again, that impairment can be from alcohol or drugs. However, remember that when you're writing your report, the validated clues for Standardized Field Sobriety Tests are for alcohol only. That means that when you are writing your report after your DUI-drugs arrest, do not rate the performance of the Standardized Field Sobriety Tests as satisfactory or unsatisfactory or pass or fail using the numbers of those clues. This is because when we're talking about drug impairment, you will need to make note of other indicators of impairment, all of which may be valid indicators that your suspect is impaired by drugs. Drug impairment indicators may be different from the validated clues for alcohol. Thus, when you're writing your report, everything you observe might be indicators of impairment and/or drug use, and it must be noted and documented. This concludes this training video. I am Shannon Bryant, your Nevada Traffic Safety Resource Prosecutor. On behalf of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Nevada's Office of Traffic Safety, and the Washoe County District Attorney's Office, thank you for all you do and for keeping Nevada's roadways safe.